So here's the question on everyone's mind. Are we living through the biggest financial bubble in history, or are we in the early days of a technology revolution that's about to change literally everything? The world's top financial minds are completely divided on this, and today we're going to break it all down.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the warning signs that have everyone on edge. Then, we'll dive into the two powerful stories driving the market. We'll look at the big debate over cash, try to understand the psychology behind all the madness, and wrap it all up with some timeless principles for what's next.
And this is it. This is the big one. It's such a simple question, right? But the answer is worth trillions of dollars, and it has the smartest people in finance at a complete standstill.
To really get what's going on here, we have to look past the spreadsheets. Warren Buffett nailed it with this quote. This isn't just about numbers. It's about raw, unfiltered human emotion. It's about psychology.
So, let's start with the hard data, the stuff that has so many seasoned investors sounding the alarm bells.
First up, we've got something called the Buffett indicator. It's pretty simple, actually. It just compares the total value of the stock market to the country's entire economic output, or GDP. Right now, it's at 218%. To give you some context, Buffett himself said that when this thing gets this high, it's like playing with dynamite. It basically suggests stock prices have gotten way ahead of the real economy.
And then there's this metric, the CAPE ratio. This one looks at stock prices compared to their average earnings over the last decade. A level of 40, well, that's nosebleed territory. It's only been this high two other times in modern history, right before the massive crash in 1929 and just before the dot-com bust in 2000. And historically, when valuations are stretched this thin, the returns that follow, well, they're usually not pretty.
Okay, so the warning signs are flashing bright red. But this leads us to two powerful and, well, completely opposite stories that people are telling to explain what's going on right now. On one side, you've got the bears. They see a classic textbook bubble, all driven by hype. And on the other side, you have the bulls, who see a genuine innovation boom that actually justifies these crazy prices. This is the heart of the conflict right here.
The legendary bubble spotter Jeremy Grantham really sums up the bear case. He argues that history is crystal clear. Whenever greed totally overwhelms the fundamentals, a painful correction, a reckoning, always follows. The most dangerous words in investing are always, "this time is different."
But then, and this is a huge but, you've got this incredibly powerful counter-argument from people like Cathie Wood and the bull camp. They're basically saying, no, this time is different. They believe we're not just in another market cycle, but we're on the cusp of a whole new technological era.
So the bulls, they point to this incredible convergence of game-changing technologies, things like AI, genomics, and robotics. Their whole argument is that these aren't just small improvements. No, these are massive, fundamental shifts that are going to unlock productivity we've never seen before and create unbelievable wealth. From their perspective, today's valuations might even look cheap in a few years. So, with these two completely clashing stories, it leads to a very, very practical question for all of us. What in the world are you supposed to do with your cash?
And, oh man, this debate is fierce. You have Warren Buffett, who sees cash as dry powder, right? It's this patient asset that lets you jump on amazing opportunities when they pop up. But then you've got Larry Fink, who warns that inflation basically makes cash a melting ice cube. It just erodes your buying power every single day you're not invested.
And just look at this. The advice from the world's top investors is all over the map. Grantham is basically saying get out. Buffett says hold cash and be patient. Dalio says hedge your bets, diversify. And Wood is saying stay all in. I mean, the big takeaway here is that there's absolutely no consensus, not even close.
So, to really understand why this debate is so intense and why markets can be so irrational, we've got to look beyond the numbers and into our own heads.
The Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman proved that we're just not the rational creatures we think we are. Our brains are full of these, you could call them bugs, or behavioral biases. Take loss aversion, for example. The pain of losing $100 feels way worse than the pleasure of gaining $100 feels good. And that kind of hardwiring causes us to make really predictable and often very expensive mistakes in the market.
You see, these biases, they create this powerful and predictable emotional roller coaster. First you get euphoria, right? Greed takes over, everyone feels like a genius and thinks, this stock is going to the moon. But then, that high gives way to anxiety, this fragile feeling that things could turn. Then anxiety becomes pure fear,
and our loss aversion kicks into overdrive, triggering panic selling. And finally, you hit total capitulation when everyone just gives up, which, ironically, is often the exact moment the whole cycle starts over again. You know, the late, great Charlie Munger really said it best. We're social animals first and rational animals a distant second. We just follow the herd, we buy when we see our neighbors getting rich, and we sell in a panic when they do. Resisting that urge is maybe the single hardest part of investing.
Okay, so given all this conflicting advice and knowing about all the psychological traps we're wired to fall into, how are we supposed to navigate whatever comes next? Let's try to boil everything down to a few timeless principles.
You know, across all these different clashing viewpoints, there are a few pieces of wisdom that really last. First, have a plan and then actually stick to it, especially when things get crazy. Second, create systems for your decisions to try and take emotion out of the picture. Third, as Munger would say, just avoid dangerous temptations, like investing with borrowed money. And finally, something Warren Buffett has said for decades, for most of us, the simplest and most effective strategy is just to consistently invest in a low-cost index fund and tune out all the daily noise.
And that leaves us with one final and much bigger question. Because this whole debate about markets, it isn't just about money. It's really about the future. In an age of incredible technology and unprecedented government debt, what kind of economic world are we actually building for the next generation? Now that is the real trillion-dollar question.